Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is week 17 of the Fumbling Gurus podcast. I am Sick, the host for this week. We also have our in house Twitter and TikTok specialist, Sensational Gaming.
Hey, hello. Hi.
And then welcoming back, last week he was not able to make it. Of course, we had craziness around the holidays, but we're welcoming back G-Man this week.
What's up? How you doing?
We'll get into his Giants pick from last week. I'm sure he'll have quite a bit to say about that. Uh,
Mm,
we'll save that for the end of the podcast, though. Jumping in, we do have quite a bit to cover this week, but we'll start off with, I guess, some somber news and then jump into some of the items that are some pretty exciting games from the last couple weeks. Um, So, of course, kind of jumping in, I know the big news this week, John Madden did pass away on the 28th of December, 85 years old. So, lived a long life there, and of course, made a lot of contributions to football community. I remember one of the first video games that I played was the Madden football. It was like Madden 96, I believe, on the Sega Genesis. So a lot of memories there, and of course through um, middle school and high school, we always met with our friends and played Madden football before heading into school. So a lot of memories there for me around the video game. I think before his commentating and his coaching was before my time, and that's really how I knew him, was through the video games. Um, but he was one of the most winningest, if not the winningest coach in football. He was one of the youngest coaches ever to win a Super Bowl. So, a lot of accommodations on both sides of the fence of coaching, playing, and also commentating and expanding the game through that as well. I think he led the way. A lot of commentators like Tony Romo and the Peyton cast that they have now, the Manning cast. I feel a lot of that stems from how he commentated the game. But I did want to pass to you guys, give you guys a chance as well to talk about it. G-Man, if you want to kind of start off there and your thoughts around that.
yeah, so I mean, as a 2014 football watcher, he's kind of before my time. So I kind of had to do a little bit of research into this guy. I know that, he's a voice and he's a big influence in the games. But doing research, it really surprised me how big this guy actually was. First year of coaching for the Raiders, he went 12-1. That was a fun stat. Over his 10 years, he led the Raiders to 103 wins and 32 losses. That's pretty big, too. Seven-time division champ in that 10 years and one Super Bowl championship. That's a lot. And that guy, I I wouldn't have got that if I hadn't looked it up. So, so it's like they don't, I don't know if they do enough to actually promote that guy, but I know that there's a Madden documentary out. Probably going to watch that because the guy's really interesting, and I missed out on his history and having to look it up. Kind
Yeah.
of a bummer. After he dies, then you take notice, but the guy is a legend. 30 years of broadcasting as well
Hmm.
under his belt. So, and I missed all. But
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I
it
do feel
sucks.
I feel similar that like I think our generation at least, or the generation after he was prominent, it's not something that we see and not something that they showcase a whole lot. I do think, like you mentioned, the documentary, it literally came out on Christmas. Something I'm gonna pick up and watch as well. But I do think that'll help showcase, like you're saying, his impact on the sport, because I think it is a little lost in today's world. Um, Finn, I know you're probably a little closer to this and and seen some of his through the years there. So your take on it as well.
He may be one of the most iconic guys and most influential people when it comes to the NFL sport as we know it. There's a quote that was said when I heard about the news. It was on Twitter, and there was a coach who never heard of before, don't know where he coaches now, don't know anything about the guy, and he goes, "I coach today because of a quote by Madden." He says, "If you don't ever want to retire from football, start coaching." He was the voice of football. I think I speak good. I believe he was a part of the most Super Bowls for a broadcaster. He did it for Fox, CBS, covered all the different broadcasts. He's maybe the most iconic voice in football. And forget the game, the games aside. I mean, he I believe it was the third option, but it worked out as the best option because yeah, the Madden games, I mean, the Madden curse is real. We hear about it. Well, it stems from him. There's plenty of football players that are playing the sport today because of him. There are coaches who coach because of him. He is the voice, and he was one of the most influential people. Now, I remember his voice in the booth. I knew that he was a coach. I didn't realize just how great of a coach he was until this. I also didn't realize the amount, of weight that he carried around. I mean, Brett Favre used to love the dude and would speak to him at length. Andrew Brandt on Twitter was talking about it when it would be like team meetings and stuff, or like getting ready for the game. They'd have to start looking for Brett Favre because he was in a bus talking to Madden. I mean, this was a guy that just related to the players and everything, and how his career kind of started. He was an offensive lineman drafted by the Eagles, I believe, and he gets hurt his rookie year. And so he's like basically ready to call it quits, and the quarterback says, "Hey, come do some film review with me." And that's where he really soaked up and absorbed a ton of his knowledge about the game of football, and it's I believe, what made him a successful coach. So very sad passing. I mean, he was 85 years old. He had a very successful career, lived a long life. Good for him. But it's unfortunate that a guy like G-Man really misses out on the legacy that a guy like him held.
For sure. Yeah, and
True.
like you're saying, I think the the commentating, the way like no one had done commentating like he did when he came in, with the emphasis and his boom every time someone took a hit. Yeah, I still remember him jumping through like the video games. There would always be like a wall and him jumping through it, to kind of have that same emphasis. So it always brought excitement to everything he was doing.
I have a
Um,
question for you though.
mhm.
What was your favorite play?
I don't remember. I usually just did Hail Marys. Like every play was just throw it as far as I can and hope someone's gonna catch that then.
Yep.
I had maybe the deadliest screenplay in the game. I used to play with my friends and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
they dreaded the screenplay. I had just that perfect rollout just to the last second, do the little hop jump, flip it to the running back. It was like 20, 30-yard gain. There's another play where where the receivers ran post routes and fly routes,
Mm-hmm.
and then the running back basically did a little crosser, and it was always good for like a 17, 18-yard gain. It was my go-to third down play. I never played defense. I blitzed. I played
Yeah.
two corners and a safety, and everybody else at the line to blitz. I figured I'm either gonna sack you, intercept you, or you're gonna score. But that's okay. You can't stop my offense.
No, it's similar. I always did the mini games. That was what I enjoyed. The coffin kick, where you tried to get it into the corner with the punts.
Hmm.
Like the
Absolutely.
5 yard line and the touchdown in between there was always high value points. And then the hit stick came out when we were playing
I
Madden. So trying to run people over, truck them, yeah, that was always fun.
love when you get a big hit in today's NFL, and everyone just goes, "Ooh, he laid the hit stick."
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
become
I
It's
iconic.
love I love the franchise mode where I'd pick like the Jaguars or the Texans, some lowly garbage team like the Eagles maybe, and tear it apart and try to build a Super Bowl winner by not by me playing it because I could take a bad team and beat computers, but by just autoing it all the way
Mm-hmm.
through and see if I couldn't build a winner.
Yep.
Good
Yeah.
good time, good times.
That.
Crazy to think though how like I know his name's on it, but he was heavily in the game. Like he had a big portion in it. How many people that he got to watch football and learn more about football through the games alone,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So that I mean, that alone, like his life was football since
Yeah.
Mitch
33
Schwartz,
years old.
Mitch Schwartz, right tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs, All Pro. He's got cut this year, so he's been on the free agent list as he's recovering. But people were asking him, and he would be like, "Yeah, man, I'd wake up every morning and played as much as I could." So like that guy's life was heavily influenced by the Madden games, and
Mm-hmm.
he's an All Pro
Yeah, I mean
Super Bowl winner.
it's changed over the years. Playing the more recent ones, you don't necessarily have the influence of Madden in it as much. But I remember playing the old school games, and they had quotes from him in the games. So, like if you did a play, it'd be a quote from him of him commentating while you're playing, essentially. Um, but yeah, uh, yeah, I mean, again, sad passing, but also good to remember and have this time to think back on that influence. Moving on a little bit, jumping into a different kind of leave here with some retirement news this week. So there's a couple, I guess, but I'll start off with Big Ben. Ben Roethlisberger announcing that, or at least what he sees to be his last game in the home stadium there for the Steelers. Um, I did find it interesting. He has only played for the Steelers his entire career. So he's been a Steeler through and through. He's 18 seasons, 18 years that he's played for them. So, I mean, man, that's a long tenure, and I think the longest tenure for a quarterback to stay with a single team. So, yeah, I mean, I think there was rumors before this week, so people knew that he was going to be, or at least assuming he was going to be retiring. I don't know if I fully see him retiring fully from football potentially this year and doing like a Brett Favre type situation. Um, but yeah, I'll start with Finn. I'll throw it your way of your thoughts and what you think Big Ben future may look like there.
He will be a guy that you'll see and talk about, maybe join a panelist to like a Terry Bradshaw
Hmm.
type. But I know I don't see him ever playing again. I think he should have probably retired at the end of last year. He's beat up. He's a guy who's taken a lot of hits throughout his career. He early on he made his, he was known for a big body guy who could absorb hits but roll out and make plays with his legs, and it's tough to do that for 5 years, let alone 10 years, let alone 18 years. And so I think he's done. Uh, his arm doesn't look. He just doesn't look to be the same guy that he was even a couple years ago.
Hmm.
In terms of his future, it'll be interesting. I mean, I don't necessarily see him as a big time broadcaster like a Tony Romo. Some guys you see them in the spotlight, the way they talk and everything else, and I don't know if I get that from Big Ben. So maybe a Terry Bradshaw, where like he's kind of part of a crew that talks about games, but I honestly could see him being the Brett Favre route, where you'll see him here and there in a commercial, but he's just kind of there and done enjoying life. I mean, he's had a successful career. He's managed to take his one huge hiccup and make people forget about it. So I kind of going out on a sour note. I mean, his team's not very good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree that if he would have retired last year, it would have been kind of retiring on a high note, or at least as high a note as you can. And now I think this year is kind of, like you said, a little lackluster, but we kind of saw it coming. Um, yeah, it is interesting. I know last couple weeks and with the COVID list and the quarantine periods, I know that adds to it. But there's been a lot of need for veteran quarterbacks or quarterbacks that can at least come in and fill a couple weeks. The Saints last week were potentially reaching out to Drew Brees. Phillip Rivers got reached out to by, I believe, the Colts this week. They're down to, I think, their third string, at least second string quarterback. So, yeah, I mean, there's potential. There's somewhat of a need for these quarterbacks, but yeah, I don't see him being necessarily brought on as a full-time season-long quarterback for any teams. G-Man, any thoughts on the retirement news there from Big Ben?
If you would have told me he wasn't retiring at the end of this year, it would surprise me more. You guys basically hit the nail on the head with that one. Like, he should have retired last year. He's getting old, and don't do it to yourself. Don't try to prove something. I mean, it's a young man's game, and you're getting up there in age.
Oh, that's a Brady. Please, like, I want that guy gone.
Listen, okay, he's not a Brady. He's not an Aaron Rodgers. He needs to just ride off into the sunset.
He's not even 40 years old, man. I mean, Brady's still going strong. He's got what, 5 more years left in him? Can't Big Ben keep it going?
He's not 40?
He's 39.
Oh. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I thought he was like mid 40s. That guy aged. That guy did not age well.
That here we are talking about this dude, how he should have retired last year, that he's old, he's beat up, his body's up. I'm 30. He's 9 years older than me. And I'm like, yeah, dude, that dude, he needs to go.
Listen, though, are you an all-star athlete, Finn? Because I don't know. I mean,
you haven't seen me on the pickleball court lately, man.
True.
When I play those 85-year-olds, man, I can flat out move.
Retirement home football, you're the MVP every year.
All day, every day.
When you're 6'5", 240 pounds playing pickleball, then we'll talk.
Hey man, I'm 5'9" and 127 pounds. A pure muscle.
Pure muscle.
We need to get you some sponsors on your jersey there.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I know this week too there was at least Finn, you had mentioned some rumors of and I mean I think it was maybe jokingly thrown out there last year with Aaron Rodgers potentially looking at the same future. I don't foresee him. I think the only reason I'd see him retiring is a pick of where he wants to play, or maybe getting a little. I guess bored is a word for Rodgers. I feel he's one of those guys that he gets bored if he's not challenged. But yeah, I know you threw that out there as well. Any thoughts there around what we may see from him in the next couple of years?
We saw something, and I wish I could remember who it was. It might have been Lindsay OKK on Twitter who said that Aaron Rodgers really was thinking about retiring last year. Like that was legitimately a thought that was going through his mind. Mm-hmm. He decided to come back one more year. And the thought process is that if he wins the Super Bowl, he may just walk out and say, I've done it. I've got nothing left to prove. Mm-hmm. Back-to-back MVPs, Super Bowl winner, 2-time Super Bowl winner. I'm done with the organization of the Packers. I don't want them to control me anymore. I've made enough money. I'm out. Mm-hmm. That's a very real possibility. I don't see it, though. The guy's playing at such a high level. And look, I know this year, he's somebody that doesn't like criticism, and he's gotten a lot of criticism this year over the way he has handled his COVID inoculations and everything. But he is still a guy that I think would love to prove everybody that he's the greatest. And what better way to do that than to, say, go to Denver and win a Super Bowl? Go to Pittsburgh, win a Super Bowl.
I think until he changes his number, he's not going to be the greatest.
I mean, he is the greatest quarterback to wear number 12, and I missed an opportunity to say that.
I was waiting for it. I was waiting.
But no, I mean it's so hard to say what he's gonna do, right? Like we don't know because obviously we're not him, but the guy has it all.
Hmm.
He has everything, and he's already won a Super Bowl. He's probably gonna win his second MVP in back-to-back years. He does may not want to deal with the criticism and the press, and he may say, you know what, it's time to ride in the sunset and go home and enjoy life. And good luck, Packers, with the salary cap position that you're in. And Jordan Love, hope you love that guy.
Yeah, I think to me that's the difference between Brady and Rodgers. I think Rodgers is, in his own way. I think they're different style of quarterbacks, but in his own way, he's perfected his art, right? And I don't see him though having that drive that Brady has to want to be there every day and want to be putting in decades of work for football. I see him as someone that he's gotten to the top of what you're saying. He's gotten to the top of where he's playing. Does he really want to continue? Does he really want to? Maybe he wants to go perfect something else. That's he seems like he's kind of that hopper that he likes to have the challenge. He likes to get to that point and then move on to something else. Um, yeah. Before we move on to something else, G-Man, any words there? Anything that any
Mm.
thoughts on the second greatest player to ever wear number 12?
um, literally, I think his best course of action would be win that Super Bowl, commentate. That's what
Mm-hmm.
that he obviously likes it. He's going on interviews with Pat McAfee all the time. He went on Jeopardy. Like, have test his hand in commentating. Like,
Yeah.
I think he'd be okay at it.
Yeah. He does
But other than that,
all the commercials. Yeah.
yeah, all the
I,
commercials.
I don't like it. I want to see him go from Green Bay to the New Orleans Saints and see him dominate the NFC South for the next 5 years, 6 years, and really
Uh-huh.
show why he's the greatest quarterback to ever wear
Mm-hmm.
number 12.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I that would be the only thing that would make me agree with that statement is if he did move to the Southern Division and just dominate the Bucks for the next 5 years. Then I would admit that
Listen,
he's the
listen, I would laugh so hard.
Him
Takes
and Sean
Devontae Adams
Payton,
with him.
that's not going to happen. But could you imagine the wide receiving core with Devontae Adams and Michael Thomas, with Aaron Rodgers throwing it to him? With oh my Sean Payton, the coach. Oh, I'm all right. Let's do this. I'm signing me up. Talking about Madden. That's a super Madden team right there.
Yeah, that's
and
like somebody took all top 10 of the draft and just did it himself. These are mine.
um so yeah, I mean, again, a lot of things that I think are going to be in the off season this year, but I did want to jump into a couple games that stood out last week, so we'll kind of transition over there. There were two games that stood out to me, and I'll give you guys some time as well if there's any games that you want to discuss. Um, but the two games that stood out to me were kind of blowout games. We had the Cowboys, and then we'll move on to kind of Joe Burrow and the Bengals as well. Um, but starting off with the Cowboys playing the Washington football team, it was actually a game I was excited to see. Division rivals, playoff implications, a lot of things ahead of that game. Dak, was the last couple weeks maybe not playing his best, but man, the Cowboys came out and were ready for that game. Um, it was one of those games where I kind of wish there was some type of mercy rule in the NFL. I kind of felt bad for the Washington football team for a little bit, um, but yeah, they dominated both offensively and defensively. But I know Dak heading into that game, he ended up with four total touchdowns, over 300 yards passing. Not necessarily getting going on the running game, but I mean, they didn't really have to. So yeah, we'll jump a little bit into that if you guys have thoughts there. But it was one game that stuck out to me as a blowout last week. I'll pass it to our resident Cowboys fan, G-Man, first.
Listen, it's like kicking a team when they're down. Didn't they have like a ton of COVID uh, reserve players on there that didn't play? So they weren't even at full capacity. Yeah, they had their starting quarterback, but I mean, versus a dominant Cowboys, you kind of figure this is going to happen. Um, I mean, they're 11-4 for a reason, so I don't really have that much to say other than go Cowboys.
We need to clip that.
Don't clip that.
It's at least the third time he's said that.
Listen, but I only said go Cowboys because I needed that Washington loss. So I could have after the first quarter, I just zoned it out because I'm like, okay, well, nail in the coffin, Washington. That's all I needed.
Very true.
What makes Dallas so scary is that they have the ability to run the ball with Elliott and Pollard.
Mm-hmm.
But really, that's their like weapon that, like that's their little tiny pistol that's tucked away in their sock that they only use in an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
When you have Dak Prescott and you have Amari Cooper and you have the kid they drafted,
CD Lamb
and then Gallup and the tight end that's starting to get going. That's great on offense. But then they also have the potential defensive player of the year in rookie Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
And while he gives up a whole lot of yards, they have a guy, Diggs, who's intercepting the ball at a faster rate than his brother's catching touchdown passes in Buffalo. And it's ridiculous. Their defense is finally playing up to par. Their offense. Their offense has been a little lackluster, but they can get it going. And when they do get it going, it's scary. So I think this is one of those games that kind of makes the NFL look and go, how real is this Dallas team? And are they the team to beat in the NFC outside of Green Bay?
Yeah, that was my next question to you guys is this the Cowboys team we're going to see head into the playoffs? Because it's scary. Like, that was not just, like you're saying, Washington may have been a little beat up and may have had a couple of team, members that weren't able to play. But that was a serious Cowboys team that we saw. And it was scary for sure.
I tend to believe that what we saw was the combination of a really good team playing a really bad team that's beat up. However, what's scary to me is that's a team that is the way you can translate to the playoffs. Great defense tends to carry, good running games tend to carry, and they have enough weapons on offense. Good luck defending it.
Listen, Dallas is a choke artist. They haven't won a playoff game since 1995 or 4. I don't remember which year. One of those years. But let me just tell you, that span is a long span of getting there, getting into the playoffs. Never happened. I don't know. It could be their year. Or they could face the Eagles for the third time and then take their L. I don't know. It's time will tell. I would like to see, yeah. Wild card. If Eagles get into the wild card with 7th seed, they face Dallas. So
Ben's got a fact check.
The last time the Cowboys won a playoff game apparently was in 2018 when they beat the Seattle Seahawks in the wild card round.
Really?
Is a wild card round really a playoff round?
That's not that. That's getting into playoffs, isn't it? Is that really playoffs?
Yeah, that's playoffs. Yeah. That's the first round of the playoffs.
All right.
Maybe you meant NFC Championship game. I don't know. I'm just here to fact check. I'm here to keep the numbers accurate. I'm bookkeeping, man. That's all I'm doing.
That's fine. That's fair. That's fair. Whatever.
It made me question because the Dolphins haven't won a playoff game since the year 2000, I believe it was, or 2001. I remember I talked about that. And that's one of the longest droughts in NFL right now. So that's why I fact checked that.
Yeah. I
Man,
thought
you need to
Eagles
clean up
won.
your Dallas Cowboys
I
history, my
thought the
friend.
Eagles won the Super Bowl in 2018.
They might have, but Dallas won a playoff game.
Well, yeah. Well, blind squirrel, the rest. Here's what I got to say about Dallas. They look really dominant. Can they do it? Can they get past a certain point? Like I don't know. They're choke artists. They don't. I don't know. Hate Dallas.
Well, I think this week will be a good. I mean, I don't know. The Cardinals are kind of in a downward spiral, but they're playing the Cardinals this week, and I think that'll be a good test of if they come out and dominate again. It could spell disaster for anyone in their wake. But I guess we'll see next week. We'll cover that again on the podcast for everyone that's tuning in.
I'm sure we will be. Not to look into the future or anything, but I have a feeling that'll be a game that gets covered.
Yeah,
for sure.
100%.
Jumping into the second game here, probably not a whole lot to cover, but something I wanted to mention and bring up some stats around, and if you guys want to throw anything in there as well. I did not get to watch this game, but it was one that I was looking forward to, despite I don't think the main quarterback was playing for the opponent there, but. The Bengals last week, Joe Burrow, he always seems to have the Ravens number, and they do not like that in the least. But the second time this year that they've beaten them, and man, did they beat them. It was not only, I guess it was a blowout. They won by 20 so odd points, but Joe Burrow went off on them. He had 525 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. So in the grand scheme of things, it's the fourth most passing yards in a NFL game ever. And he was only 2 yards off of being tied for second, essentially. And in general, it's the most passing yards ever thrown by a Bengal. So, man, just he went off, and there was a couple of comments, and I know Finn's gonna love some of these, but a lot of people are comparing him to a young Tom Brady. Of course, the greatest player to ever wear number 12. So, highest compliment you could probably get as a quarterback.
Who's comparing him to Brady?
I believe it was. So I was reading something. I was reading an article about him this week, and the Ravens defensive coordinator made mention of he wasn't too scared of Burrow. He had a plan for Burrow. And then, of course, he comes out and destroys them. So it was, man, who are they playing next week? It was the team they're playing, or this week.
Chiefs.
Week. Yes, it was the Chiefs defensive coordinator that was like, hey, man, I'm gonna not throw out a challenge to Joe Burrow this week, and I think he mentioned something of the way that he's looking, the way that he played last week reminded him of that style of play. But yeah, Finn, I'll drop that there and let you jump in with your thoughts.
Joe Burrow was a quarterback when he got drafted number 1 overall in the year that Tua was drafted, who went Tua. And then we had Justin Herbert, who went the third quarterback taken. I was not a Burrow fan. I listened to another podcast that they have a pretty good track record on their drafts, and the one guy that I rely on and have a lot of faith in was not a Joe Burrow fan. So when Joe Burrow had an okay rookie year and everyone was like, "Oh my goodness, he's so great," I was like, "Yeah, nah, I don't see it." All right, I'm a little wrong. He's having a very, very good year. Probably the best quarterback of that class right now. ahead of Justin Herbert. And the dude had an unbelievable game against the Ravens. The Ravens do not know how to stop him. And if you want to build a team, the first thing you need to do is figure out how to beat the teams that are in your division. And Cincinnati's doing that. The other thing is Joe Burrow's doing it with a not great offensive line, a so-so run game, and a receiving core of, what is it, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Tyler Boyd. Good, but far from great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jamar Chase started off the year unbelievable. He's certainly cooled off. Higgins had a monster game last week with 12 catches on 13 targets, 194 yards, 2 touchdowns, including a 52-yarder. I mean, the guy's Burrow is just he's just dropping dimes left and right. What I don't like about the Brady comparison is that he doesn't do it the same way Brady does. He has a little bit more athleticism, more straight line speed, not the big arm, and he does it very well. Also, early Brady didn't do much, and I will sit there and I will fight that fight. He won on great defense, good running game, and just efficient passing rating. Until he got Randy Moss and Dante Stallworth and Wes Welker, did his numbers go off the chart. I don't want to get into that. That's history that we don't like to bring up. We don't like to talk about. So we're not going to. But Joe Burrow, he's a great player. It looks like the Bengals hit a home run on that pick. And it's going to be a very fun development watching the Bengals actually be a team that's, shall I dare say, good.
No, I agree. I think it's something. It's one of the teams like I always get them confused with the Browns, Cleveland Browns, Cincinnati Bengals, same initials. I don't know. It confuses me for some reason.
Same division, same
Yeah,
trash team.
yeah, maybe that too. But I always lump them together, and it's always team that I don't really consider. I don't really think about. And both teams this season are starting to get that traction and starting to, kind of blow up and start their own franchise there. But jumping in, before we move on, G-Man, your thoughts on the performance there?
I'll be short and sweet. I don't like you. You show me the Bengals, I say who. But last year or last game, he did have a monster game. One of the ones that I wish I watched, but I wasn't interested in at all.
Mm-hmm.
Dang, I was wrong. But Joe Burrow, I mean, good for him. I hope he makes it. It's not every day you get a game like that, so hopefully he can keep it up.
Mm-hmm.
The Baltimore Ravens have given up like 5 games of quarterbacks that gone over 500 yards, and Joe Burrow's done it twice this year.
If they had Lamar Jackson playing, or even Huntley playing last week, I would have for sure watched that game. But when I saw both were out and they were going to be playing third string, it wasn't even on my radar to watch. And I would have liked to see, assuming Joe Burrow comes out with the same performance, I would have liked to see him go toe-to-toe with Lamar Jackson for that game, because I think they would have both been pushing each other a little bit.
Well, you get a key
That would have been a
matchup
game.
this week because it's Cincinnati versus Kansas City Chiefs, and that's a big game for both teams.
This could be that could be a gunslinger for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Before we jump into our picks, this is more just a talking point. We've covered the last couple weeks, but the COVID list continues to grow. We had at the beginning of the week, and I haven't looked as the week went on, but at the beginning of the week, there were still over 100 players on the list. And then Monday, we had 96 players test positive. 96 different players. So it is not getting better.
As of right now, 170 players are on the COVID list.
Yep. So they did, reduce the quarantine time. So that was based on the CDC guidelines. They reduced it as well. But it went from 10 days to now 5 days. So being on the list doesn't necessarily mean you're out for the next game. You do still have to test out of it and everything. But man, for me at least, the implications moving into playoffs, etc. That's going to be interesting, and especially this is kind of the worst time it's never a great time, right? But in the NFL season, these are games you need to win potentially for playoff spots, and then heading into the playoffs, of course, as well. So yeah, it's been crazy, and hopefully, we can still have some competitive games. We're not seeing postponements or anything of that nature, or teams losing simply because of the reason of not having the players they need. But I'll give you guys a quick minute here. Any other thoughts on that, or anything you guys wanted to hit on in regards to that news?
Peter King is furious. Sports Illustrated guy, or used to be Sports Illustrated guy, now over in NBC, big name.
Mm-hmm.
He was livid with the NFL. He thought it was unfair for Miami to play New Orleans with 22, I believe it was, official
Mm-hmm.
players on the COVID list.
Mm.
And he doesn't like the fact that teams that are in playoff implications are playing with third string quarterbacks, practice squad guys, and everything else. Ultimately, look, it sucks, and I hope it doesn't happen to my team, and I hope it doesn't impact my team. But it is what it is. It is the year of COVID. Figure it out. Keep your guys safe as a player and teammate. Do what you need to do to make sure that you are following the rules to not spread this thing, and try to field the most competitive team possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, how much did the NFL pay the CDC to limit it from 10 days to 5 days?
I know that was very precise timing.
Yeah,
There was a joke that said the NFL saw Ian Book throw the first pass and said, "We got to change the guidelines quick."
Yeah, I don't know. I know that I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's NHL suspended their season, right? It's on
Yes,
hold. Yeah,
was it's back.
it's back, but I don't know. I hope that doesn't happen to the NFL. I hope, we can get this thing contained and nobody gets seriously ill from it.
Hmm.
And that's the hope.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. At least for the NFL, teams generally are much bigger than the NBA had the season inside the dome essentially, and things like that. NFL could never get away with anything of that nature. So yeah, hopefully we continue again to see competitive games, and we're not seeing this. Like Finn said with New Orleans, we're seeing games like that. That was, I mean, good that Miami won, but it was not the greatest game to watch on TV. So, jumping into, I guess, our picks, and maybe we can start there. But Finn, I'll let you go over some of your picks last week. You did have Miami over New Orleans. Of course, that was a solid pick for the week. We'll give you like 3/4 of a point for that win, maybe.
First off, let's talk. The game started. When we did our pick, Miami was a 3-point underdog. By the time that game rolled around, Miami was like a 4.5-point favorite. So yes, all they had to do was lose by 2 and we win. I would have got my point. Ian Book first pass wasn't great. He was 2 for 2 on the night on his first 2 passes, including a touchdown. Unfortunately, he threw it to a Miami Dolphin player for a pick 6, and that's how the game started off. And the Dolphins defense slammed the book on Ian Book, and that was the game. It was not a very good game by Miami. Tua was not his normal self. He threw a really bad pick. Miami's defense was swarming. I was very upset at the poor offensive play calls. I thought they were way too conservative, but ultimately they walked out of there 20-3, and it certainly looked like a much better Florida team than the team that New Orleans faced the week prior.
Well, I'll let that one slide only because we demolished the Panthers this week. So it was a fluke. We were resting some people clearly in the New Orleans game. So it was not the same team. You can say what you want.
Yeah. So then my upset went. I kind of went against the grain there. You guys had both picked Indianapolis, and I was certainly thinking about that game, but I said, "Ha ha! I bet you they're going to pick it." So I went different. I had Bills over New England. Buffalo showed that Josh Allen is much better than that awful garbage trash quarterback named Mac Jones. I say that not because I think he's horrible, but because the media makes him like a Hall of Famer, and I just need to level it out. The Buffalo Bills show that they are the AFC East champs, and sorry, New England, but you're not there yet. Goodbye. They slammed the door shut. I liked it. It helped Miami out. Miami now can win out, and they control their playoff hopes. Just want to say that if the season ended today, Miami is in. So, 2 points, feeling good about myself. And then I did something that I never do. I chose San Francisco. I thought San Francisco was a better team than they were. I said, San Francisco, you're going to beat the Tennessee Titans. And you know what? No, they did not. Jimmy Garoppolo hurts his thumb real bad. Maybe out for the year. San Francisco didn't cover. San Francisco didn't win. I went to Tennessee Titans. But I've got 2 dubs. I'm happy with that. 2 points. Put it on the tally. That's what we like to call good odds. 2 of 3 ain't bad, as I believe that was Meatloaf.
I don't know what to do with that last comment.
I believe that was Meatloaf that's saying 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
I feel like that was the like the 2-minute drill you just did. Like I feel exhausted for you after that.
Yeah.
You should have seen me Monday night because I was supposed to go fishing on Tuesday. I went fishing on Monday, and I watched that game. I'm already tired. I did not get a nap in that I know of, and the offense was boring. Tua was just not really hitting the plays that were there. The offense, I mean, they ran a wildcat on 3rd and 12. I was ready to just walk out. I believe I looked at my dad and said, and this is why I want the coordinator still fired, and I don't know if I believe in Brian Flores. I was livid. I was not happy, but they got the win, and they were dominant in the way they won.
Yeah, I want to throw out too that this has been a crazy season for the Dolphins. They started out winning the first game, and then
Crushed
game
the first game, by the way. They beat New England by 1.
Losing streak. 7 games in a row, you lost.
The Jaguars in London.
And then 7-game winning streak. And you're potentially in the playoffs, starting the season 1-7.
What can I say? Except, you're welcome.
We're moving on to G-Man after
that. Do we have to? Okay, listen. Okay, I wasn't here last week. I texted my picks to Finn, and I said, Eagles, 10-point favorite. I'm going with it. I think they're fine. And then news hit that head coach had COVID. And I'm like, Eagles without their head coach, 10-point spread. I don't like it. Something doesn't feel right. So I texted him back, and I'm like, reverse that call. I think the Giants, keep it closer than the 10 points. And guess what? I was wrong because Nick Sirianni was in there after all. It looks scary, but they ate something second half, and then they just destroyed the Giants. And yeah, that's all that I have to say.
How'd that make you feel when your divisional rival crushes your favorite team like that, G-Man?
What are you talking about?
The G. Doesn't that stand for Giants fan?
What? It's just man 33 most of the time.
My
bad. No. I should have known better. Giants are not good, and they're on the bottom of the NFC least for a reason. And Should know better.
I'm seeing the trends though. Like, it wasn't it the Raiders, I believe, one week you picked and they destroyed them.
Dude.
So it's like, I mean, I get it. You want to get your picks right, but man, maybe you need to keep picking the wrong team, and Giant or Eagles will.
I
Keep,
try, but if every time I pick the Eagles, like most of the time I'm right, but sometimes I'm wrong, and I just had a feeling. Here's the thing: I had the right feeling to begin with. I put Eagles covering the 10-point spread, but I didn't get the chance to fix that after I knew the head coach was going to be back in. So, you know, a team without their head coach kind of scares me off when it comes to the spread. So
that's me playing the world's smallest violin.
You know, I don't want to hear it. You were talking about the COVID thing when I was talking about Washington, and then you're like, oh, Miami. Yeah, okay. So I don't want to hear it. You're like, oh, buck it up, G-Man. Now you're like, oh, I don't want to get Dolphins. Yeah, Dolphins might not even make the playoffs, so I don't want to hear it. Also, all right, let's talk about our upsets. Colts over Arizona.
Yep.
I didn't watch a lot of that game, but I did watch a little bit, and Carson Wentz looked rough, but he ultimately got it done in that game.
That's been the story for the Colts throughout. I mean, of course, they have the top rusher in the league with Jonathan Taylor. That helps. But man, I that's how I feel every time I look at the Colts record. I was like, how every time I watch a game, Wentz, he makes me wince at watching him play.
Yeah, dude.
And get in there.
You're rubbing off on me, Finn. You're rubbing off on me.
God. Yeah, it's
I don't understand it. I don't get it.
They're hanging in there somehow, and I think that it's Jonathan Taylor. So I think that he's pretty much the guy on that team.
Yeah,
Michael Pittman's a pretty good receiver, and don't forget that defense is legit. It was legit.
I know.
Started off. It's back.
I know. Carson Wentz. I think that his team is good, and he's just kind of there. So it's like he gets credit because he's the quarterback, but God, he's not that good. He's not that good. Anyway, we got the dub there. I'm sure. I don't know if you want to talk about it anymore because we both shared that pick.
Yeah. The only thing I'll add is, man, the Cardinals have fallen off.
Dude.
They started the year, I think, 8 or 9-0, and now they're 10-5. So almost the opposite of the Dolphins. Man, I the only thing you can point to is Hopkins is still out, still going to be out. Murray was out for a couple of games, but he's been back for at least 2 or 3 games now, and it's not picking up. So I don't know. I mean, they had a single touchdown, I think, in that game.
You want me to tell you their issue though? When your leading rusher is Kyler Murray on 4 carries, and your leading receiver is your running back, that's not a good combination.
Yeah. So I don't know what they need to figure out, but they better figure it out soon. If we want to jump into your lock of the week, none of us got our locks of the week right. But dude, you picked Green Bay.
Green Bay over Cleveland. Aaron Rodgers, it was rough. It was rough. It was close. I wish the spread wasn't 7. But that's also a game that I actually didn't watch. So, I wish I did, but I didn't. I know that, Cleveland, historically not that great. So I was like, hey, Green Bay, you got the greatest quarterback of all time. Let's let's
great quarterback number 12.
Yeah. Sorry. Anyway, I took an L there. I wish that Green Bay did better, played harder.
Yeah.
But they didn't. And I got the L.
I mean, at least your team won. I don't even know what to say about my lock of the week. Like I don't even know where to start. I picked the Chargers over Houston, the Texans, and they got destroyed. The Texans put up 41 points against them, I believe. Let me look up the score here.
Oh, it was
Uh,
ugly,
40,
Oh,
41 to 29. How?
including a pick six by Justin Herbert, I
the
believe.
Chargers.
Which I think was like one of the last plays in the fourth quarter. But man, I don't even want to get into that pick. I thought for sure that was a shoe in. The Chargers were playing well. They're coming off of a couple hard games. They played the Chiefs, went into overtime. They seem to play really well against really good opponents, and not so great against weak opponents. I think they tend to have that factor of they have to be challenged to play well, and I don't know. Last week, what was it Burkhead? That's coming back. I mean, he's having a pretty decent season, especially last week. 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. On the tail end of potentially his career. So that's I don't know. I don't know what else to say about that game besides clearly I shouldn't rely on the Chargers moving forward. But we can jump into our picks this week. I'll I guess I'll kick it off here with my
Did you talk
lock.
about Tampa Bay?
Oh, we didn't. Well, I mentioned it. But we did
Okay.
not.
There much to talk about.
There's not much to talk about because we destroyed them and we came out and played exactly how we should have played. So, I mean, when you have Brady, the greatest quarterback to wear number 12. I mean,
Bigger story. Carolina Panthers had 35 yards of total offense in the second half.
it
That's the
was
story.
it was bad. Like I don't even think I watched the second half. I ended up it was yeah. It was not a very exciting game, but it was exciting for me to see that we bounced back again. But that's not good when you're heading into the playoffs and you can't tell which team is going to show up that week. So it'll hopefully we keep it going these next couple weeks and get like a rhythm. But yeah, I mean it was good to see that we steamrolled the team we should have steamrolled for sure.
I do have a question for you, and that is Antonio Brown, 10 catches, 101 yards. Now, has that been verified? Is that actually accurate, or was that falsified? I'm asking for a friend.
Well, he self-reported all those stats,
Oh,
so I mean,
Mm.
100% fact. Yeah.
got it. Got it.
Did he pay the refs or did he forget?
The check's in the mail, man. It's good.
Oh,
He's good for
yeah,
it. Don't
it's
worry about
good.
it.
Good for it. Oof.
The comments that he said after that game just made me go, "What a scumbag!" And I am so thankful that he's not on my team because I'd have a hard time getting behind that guy. And
No,
we've talked about it on length. I don't think we need to get into it,
yeah.
but his press conference, one asked, is like, "Oh, I don't want to talk about that." And the reporter's like, "Yeah, well, we haven't spoke to you since your suspension. We haven't spoke to you like now's the time to clear the air." And he's like, "Well, I did what I needed to do, and whatever." It's like, get out of here, guy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, I
and
mean,
and BA needs to man up and just say Tom Brady told me that I needed him, so he's here. Like that's it, what a weak sounding coach when you say one chance that's all he gets and then he blows it and you go, well, I need receivers, so we're gonna keep him here.
yeah, I
He's one
think
of those guys that's always in the news, just for whatever. He's just always there. I feel like he'll do something just to be talked about.
I feel like it's more so like two times, like in the beginning of the season and the end of the season, he wants to be the only thing talked about. So it's like he has something that occurs that's like big news, and then just throughout the season he's just kind of there and you don't really notice him. And then he's like, "Oh, you forgot about me? Here's something else to talk about."
Mm-hmm.
I believe the Bucks organization made a pretty. I mean, look, we know that bad people play in the NFL and bad people get celebrated in the NFL. But it's been a while since we've had a bad guy just so blatant in your face in the NFL. and to be on a team that's got Super Bowl, aspirations and stuff. It's just when he's already been in legal trouble, he's already been in, off the field stuff, his football stuff, everything. It's like this isn't his first chance, second chance, third chance, fourth chance. I mean, this is like his sixth, seventh, and eighth chance, and he's still finding ways to blow it. But Tampa's like, no, 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 we got you. Win us another ring.
I mean, a lot of things get overlooked when you're winning. Unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to view it. But when you're good at what you do, if you make people money, that's what tends to happen.
Yep.
True.
And when you have a 97-year-old quarterback that runs the organization and you're best friends with them, you got a lot more power than wants to be admitted.
I wonder if he got that tablet for Christmas.
He did get a letter from the NFL for Christmas that says
that.
if you throw another tablet, you're getting fined.
I don't think
Brady 1, tablet 0.
Don't think he cares too much about that threat.
No.
What's a fine to him?
What are they gonna do? Fire him?
I think Antonio Brown owes him one. Maybe he'll pay the fine for him.
Maybe
he should catch the tablet.
he's gotta pay his chef first.
Anyways,
moving on. Jumping into my lock. This was one I actually had a different game picked, and I was taking a look at the COVID list, and decided not to go with that pick. So originally, I had picked. Let me see here. I had picked the Colts again, the Colts to play against Raiders, and I think the Colts are on a hot streak. I think they're going to keep it going. And I was like, man, I'm picking them again. They're going to get me another point here. And then Wentz is out this week. They have a couple other players that are kind of key that are out this week. So it scared me off a little bit from that game. I still think Colts will probably pull it out since Wentz isn't necessarily with Jonathan Taylor still in there. I still have confidence, but I decided to go with a separate pick because while looking at the COVID list, this team has quite a bit that are on. I believe 20 players right now. Jaguars. I think it's somewhere between 15 and 20. And they're playing the Patriots, who are also on a hot streak. So I'm picking the Patriots to beat the Jaguars, even though it is a 16-point differential. I don't see that being a problem for the Pats.
I would agree with you, but that's a hefty spread.
It is. We got this, though.
Yeah. It's funny because I also looked at that Raiders-Colts game real close and at one point started to type it in and then it went, man, I don't know. The Raiders are so hot and cold and the way the Colts play, I don't know. So I backed off as well.
There's a lot of questions for sure.
Also did that exact same thing. I had it written and I crossed it out.
All right, who wants to jump in then, since none of us picked the Colts, clearly?
Well, I'll go ahead and say that I went with the team that just had a big week, and I'm going against the team that just had a bad week, and that is Dallas over Arizona at -6. I said, Dallas, you just beat up a good team. Not a great team, but an okay team. Let's keep it rolling, and Arizona's struggling. Let's go Dallas, and that was seen to be a pretty good lock to me. That's what I went with.
I think Murray's going to give him a little bit of trouble on defense. I don't know. It'll be an interesting battle, I think, on that side with Arizona's offense and the Cowboys' defense. But yeah, I looked at that game as well, and I agree. I think the Cowboys should pull out the win, but Cardinals scare me if they can play the way they should. They're definitely a scary team.
They had DeAndre Hopkins, and they had a different coach other than Cliff Kingsbury. I'd agree with you, but with those two variables in the mix, I'm going to go with Dallas and Dak Prescott.
Fair enough.
I have for my lock of the week the Rams over the Ravens. Ravens have 17 players out, so I mean, and they just got destroyed by the Bengals last week. I don't know. I'll take my chances with a 3.5 point spread. I think the Rams over Ravens is a pretty good one. On the 17 players out alone and no Lamar Jackson. I know that Huntley is in, but
Jackson practiced yesterday, didn't practice today, so he's still questionable for Sunday. The thing that scares me about that is every time you count the Ravens out, they find themselves back in. And the Rams are traveling to Baltimore.
yeah.
I thought
I
this
still
game,
like
I
it.
looked at that game, I looked at it closely. I have a hard time betting against the Ravens.
Oh man, I don't know.
I'm not.
They lost their
your
last
gut.
3 games.
Yep.
4 games. So, like are
Three
they
of them were 2-point conversions.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Stay strong, G-Man. You got this.
I'm staying strong. That's my lock. You can't tell me otherwise.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I agree with you. I think the Ravens are hurt, not just with potentially a COVID list, but man, they have a lot of injuries as well, just stacking up. And the Rams have been. I mean, they're 11-4. I mean, the Rams are a good team. So if they come out firing on all cylinders, it should be no problem. Jumping into our upsets, G-Man, if you want to kick us off there.
See, I know that Finn had Dallas as his lock, but my upset is going to be Arizona beating Dallas.
There we go.
There's something, like I said, Dallas, they're really good until it's a game that counts. And I think this is a game that counts. Arizona, yeah, they haven't been doing that well, but I still, Dallas coming off of a pretty big game against a COVID-ridden Washington. I think that Arizona is still the team to beat, and it's only 5 points. Even though they don't even, it's the upset, so point spread doesn't matter. So Arizona.
I think that'll be a interesting game to watch for sure.
That's funny because I had a feeling somebody was going to pick Dallas to win. I had a funny feeling somebody was going to pick Dallas to win. And I was like, that's a perfect upset.
I always like when we have opposing locking upsets. That makes it a little more interesting.
It does. It's that value. I just don't think Arizona has anything to counter Dallas, and I think that linebacker Micah Parsons, he can do it all. He'll help contain Kyler Murray a lot, and that secondary is pretty nasty.
See, we will see. It's gonna be a good game.
And a playoff game. Like, if you guys want to watch it, the best game of the week, that's probably it. I mean, that should be a potential playoff matchup down the road. So definitely I should be on that game for sure.
Yep, I definitely agree. Speaking of playoff games, I picked a very similar game. Texans against 49ers. That is my upset. Texans will take out the 49ers.
Trey Lance, the starting quarterback for San Francisco.
49ers.
No more Jimmy G.
Yeah, they're hurting. I think that'll help. The Texans are coming off of whatever that was last week, where they put up 41 points. So I'm interested to see if they can keep it going. But that was one of the games that stood out to me as, I don't know, one that I felt like, again, I'm going with one I want to happen. I want to see the Texans continue steamrolling people. So that's my pick of the week.
Not bad. I can see it. That quarterback that the Texans have, David Mills, he's kind of maybe the best rookie quarterback that was drafted last year. At least, playing well this year. It'd be interesting to see how that plays out. I went with the kind of the hype train there. Cleveland has been struggling. Cleveland has not been the elite team that they thought. Baker Mayfield has certainly had his ups and downs. And we have Big Ben announcing his retirement. And let's face it, that Pittsburgh team and that organization does not want Big Ben to lose his last home game in Pittsburgh. So I'm going with Pitt over Cleveland. I know they're the underdogs. I know that Cleveland could run the ball well. Pittsburgh's been struggling to stop the run. I just don't think it's going to matter in this game. Pittsburgh is going to be playing at a higher level just simply because they don't want Big Ben to lose on the home turf.
I looked at that game. I agree. I think it'll be, if anything, the Steelers are going to do everything they can to win. So, not a bad pick at all.
I don't hate it.
All right. So that just leaves our teams for this week. Some interesting games. G-Man's side. It's a division game to playoff implications potentially there. I'll start off. I'll kick us off. Just because I'll probably be pretty quick on my side. But the Bucs are playing the Jets this week. There wasn't much thought I put into it aside from the Bucs should destroy the Jets. I'm not expecting them to have any problems. I think the spread's 2 touchdowns. So yeah, I'm picking the Bucs to destroy the Jets this week. Not much I have to really say about the game aside from that.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I mean, the Jets are bad. We know that. We say it all the time. The Dolphins have one of the more interesting, in my opinion, matchups because you have kind of the new with the old. You have Ryan Tannehill led Tennessee Titans versus the Tua led Miami Dolphins. You've got the Titans who continue to win without Derrick Henry going against the Dolphins on a 7-game winning streak. Both teams need the wins. Who prevails, we'll find out. What I don't like is that they got A.J. Brown back this week. I just think that eventually Miami's going to have a letdown. I don't see them winning 14 straight. And because of that,
AJ
I
Brown missed practice.
he did miss practice, but it's precautionary. He's fine. I'm so hesitant to say this because I don't know. My gut is telling me that Tennessee beats Miami. The 3.5-point favorites. And if I was a betting man, gun to my head, I'm picking Tennessee to beat Miami.
Can we clip this?
And I'm going for the point. It's as simple as that. I think the season ends for Miami this week against Ryan Tannehill. Brian Flores' defense should be able to shut him down, but I just have that bad feeling that this is the week that it ends.
Against Ryan Tannehill of all people.
Yes, I just have this feeling, and it pains me to say that. It does. It truly pains. Like, I'm not looking forward to Sunday.
Well,
and if they can get by this week, if they can make it to this week, the final week of the year is against New England. It is Patriots week. Win and they're in. And I want that so bad.
That would make for a great season ender right there.
Yep.
So I hope I'm wrong.
I hope you're wrong too. But
fair enough. Well, we're here for your emotional support animal while you're watching the game.
Who wants to like see me live watching that game? Nobody? Okay, good.
There'll be some tears for sure.
Some hats thrown.
So I had Eagles over the Washington football team. It's a pretty safe bet. I mean, they just come off of a devastating loss to the Cowboys. Eagles beat them the following week by 10. Well, the week before that with 10 points. We're going to the Washington football team stadium, and I think that we beat them again. I don't know. It's a 4-point spread. I think the Eagles easily cover that. Washington's not that good. So, not much else to say there.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, I've said this the last couple weeks. I think when Bucks were playing Washington as well, that they're sneaky good when they need to be. But yeah, I mean, if I were to pick two, I'd side with the Eagles. I think in that game as well. But they've if they get their players in the right position, if they last couple of weeks they've had a couple of key players that were out. I think 2 weeks ago they were missing Heineke with being out, I think COVID list. Last week I think they're missing a couple wide receivers. So if they get back to full power, it could be an interesting game. But
oh yeah. But I'm just like my lock of the week, the COVID. It just it kind of destroys your team when you have that many players out. So I can't not pick one, my team to win, and two, pick against my team for a team that has half their players out. So maybe not half, but a lot of them.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think that rounds it out. So we'll jump into our final thoughts. I did have one that I wanted to jump into. It was more a comment than anything else, so I didn't put it into our main programming here. But on Christmas night, I was watching the game. I believe it was the Arizona game. And it was on NFL Network, so you don't pay for the NFL Pass. You couldn't watch the game. I had it on the app. You can watch it on the app if you're only using cellular data. Like, there's so many loopholes you have to jump through to just get this game that's, I don't know. I felt like on the holiday, why are you putting this on NFL Network? Why are you making people jump through hoops? Oh, we all know why. We all know it's money. But it's like, come on. Really, on Christmas Day, you're making people do this. That's my final thought.
Well, here I have one comment, and that is NFL, it's all about the money. It's all about the money.
For sure. Pay to
My
play.
final thought is simple. Zach Thomas deserves the Hall of Fame. Let's get that guy in there. Let's go. He made the Pro Football Hall of Fame final. Cut down.
He was a monster. I still remember some of the hits that he laid when he was playing.
Number 54, baby. One of the best linebackers to ever play the game. 100%. He should be a lock this year. Patrick Willis, great linebacker for the 49ers, does not deserve it over Zach Thomas. It's a shame that Zach Thomas didn't get in with Ray Lewis. It's a shame that Zach Thomas didn't get in with Brian Urlacher. He was every bit the player they were. Without hesitation. Get him, get Ronnie Barber in. They deserve it. Hall of Fame. Get it right.
I guess my final thought is if John Madden is not on the cover of the next Madden game, I riot.
Well, that one from Kevin.
Not done. You like that?
Kevin, if you watch this, you know where he gets his stuff from. He steals.
Mm-hmm. I stole.
All right. Well, appreciate you guys joining us again. As always, we are here every week. So feel free to tune in and join us for some of our picks and some of the news ongoing in the league. Appreciate everyone joining in, and we'll be back again next week. So see you guys then.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye. Bye.